This video is probably going to get a lot of people annoyed, but here we go. I am not the biggest fan of Into the Spider-Verse. I have not watched Across the Spider-Verse yet. This is video I'm putting out, I'm recording it, and then immediately after recording this, I'm going to watch Across the Spider-Verse. So, that's a little context of what I'm about to do. But the point is, I just finished rewatching Into the Spider-Verse. And to tell you the truth, it's better than the first time I watched it. But this is because this time I went into watching it not thinking this is the best Spider-Man movie ever, like everyone was saying it was. Instead saying, okay, this is not my favorite Spider-Man, this has a lot of problems in this movie, but I'm just going to try to find everything good about this movie. Because there's a lot of good in this movie. I agree with the fans, especially watching this the second time, I picked up on all the great things about this movie. This movie is incredibly animated and all that good stuff. The characters are, some of them are good and some are not as good. But for the most part, this movie is pretty good. Let me start out by saying why I don't like this movie. The big reason why I'm not a big fan of this movie comes down to one simple thing. And watching the second time, I really picked up again on this, and I'm probably going to eventually, in my educational videos, which, side note, should be starting up very soon, hopefully. I should have more time on my hands eventually. But, anyways, the point is, in one of my educational videos, I should probably talk about, eventually, we're nowhere close to this part, but talking about one of the big lessons we can learn from Into the Spider-Verse has 3 good Spider-Mans, and then 3 not as good Spider-Mans, right? You spent all this time, and this is something I didn't really pick up on the first time, because I was too busy just saying, oh, they don't do a good job with Spider-Mans. They didn't pick up on, they do a good job with 3 Spider-Mans. You have Gwen Spider, or Spider-Woman. You have Peter B. Parker. They did a good job with him. And then you have Miles Morales. Those 3 Spider-Mans, they did a good job with. But I don't know why, but everyone thinks they did a good job with the other Spider-Mans. Hopefully I can play this clip right here.
My name is Peter Parker.
My name is Penny Parker.
My name is Peter Porker.
I was bitten by a radioactive
pig.
You see how in that clip, how you really, it's flashing through all 3 of these Spider-Mans really quickly, and it's kind of jumbled them together, trying to introduce them quickly. And then, honestly, the first time I was watching this movie, I put it up to that they met them in one scene, and the people went back to their universe in the next scene, and you were expected to already have an attachment to them. Now, I will admit, watching the second time, I realized they do have a couple scenes in between when you meet them and when they go back to their universe, but in those times, you really never get to know them. You really see in the ending battle of this movie, this moment of, you have the 3 Spider-Man that they're taking the time to actually build on in a team. And then you have the 3 Spider-Man who are just side there so they have 6 Spider-Man. They should have just cut all 3 of those Spider-Man out and made it just those 3 Spider-Man. Yes, this is something that I know the sequel is going to be even worse about. I see where the one played by Nicolas Cage was supposed to be the dark and broody. It was kind of supposed to be funny, but it never made me laugh. It never made me feel anything. It was kind of just, he was there, and I was like, okay, he's another Spider-Man there. Yes, he's another one that I feel like could actually, I would love to see a spin-off of that character. The only one I actually, to be completely honest, I don't want to see a spin-off of, and maybe this is because I don't like anime, but I don't care to see a spin-off of the spider robot anime girl. I don't like her. I just thought that she was annoying. And yes, she was supposed to play into those anime people's whole dream of having an anime Spider-Man or something like that. I don't know. But I didn't like her. And that's the one Spider-Man I would say that definitely in this movie I would be like, if there was a spin-off of that Spider-Man, I would be like, yeah, I'll check it out for this channel, maybe. But that's the only reason why I would check it out. The other ones I would actually check out because I want to see a story about them. Now, with Peter B. Parker, honestly, I don't think it would be a good idea to make a spin-off of him, because his whole thing is he's basically the average Spider-Man, but instead of having his happy ending, he got divorced, he's living a terrible life. And at the end of the movie, you really have conclusion to that. It's like if in No Way Home, a little spoiler for No Way Home, it's like if in No Way Home, they had at the ending scene, they had a moment where you saw Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man, go back and redeem himself. You wouldn't need the third Amazing Spider-Man. I would still want to see it because he's the best Spider-Man, but the fact of the matter is you wouldn't need to see that anymore. In the same way, this movie does bring a good conclusion to his character, for the most part. I will say one thing, that like the whole lesson that he's supposed to be like big on is that he's like realizing that he actually wants kids. It's like, okay, that's cool. But the first time around, I was like, oh yeah, I saw where they were going with that. Okay, cool. I didn't have a problem. And this time watching around, because I was also looking for, okay, so what are some faults in this? It kind of came out of nowhere. Like, I see where they were coming with that, but it was one of those moments where it was just like, oh yeah, we have to make a conclusion to this, so we're just gonna make him throw out a line. Wait a second, do I want kids? Like, that's literally just what happens. They just make it so he throws out that line, like, oh, look, that's his character arc. But it's like, really, they needed to actually, like, maybe it's because I wanted it flat out said a little bit more, but it came off like it was just a sudden moment, like, oh, we need to make his character arc end, so he wants kids. There you go. We'll just say it. We'll just have him say it, instead of, like, having a moment where, and I hear in the sequel he does have a kid, have a moment, like, what they could have done, fix that, make it so much better. They could have fixed it by just simply saying, instead of just showing him, go see MJ again, instead they make it so he, like, goes to MJ, and you have that, and then you, like, have other flashes of the other characters, and then you see a flash of him from later on, and you see him with a kid. And then that's a better conclusion than doing the random moment of, like, wait a second, do I want kids? Because then there's like, oh, yeah, look, we totally fixed that problem. And we totally made his character arc end there. But it really didn't. It felt like it was forced on that line of, wait, I want kids. Like, no. It doesn't work that way. It came off cringy. It came off like they were trying to force something on. And the dialogue in that moment was just not good. One thing I didn't pick up on the first time, but I thought was interesting, is the whole thing with Gwen and how she said she swore off friends. I'm not going to get into why that's seeming really cool to me right now, but the fact of the matter is, I really like that moment of like, oh yeah, I swore off friends, and then like this one person comes in to her life, and she's like, hey, I want to be friends. And it was a really cool moment in my mind. So overall, I think, let's talk about the good things about this, because I already talked about some, but the real good things that people really talk about, and I have to agree are pretty good. While I'm not a fan of the animation, I do agree that it is awesome. I'm worried for the sequel, because I hear the sequel is even more heavy on that type of animation, even more crazy. I heard from someone that is like, if you have ADHD, you're going to love the sequel because it's so like fast-paced. Well, I'm one of those things that I'm the person who reads the Silmarillion for fun. I'm the person who reads the Iliad for fun. I'm the person who likes watching the extended editions of the Lord of the Rings, not just because of the action scenes. I'm not the biggest fan of action by itself. I like watching that stuff for the moments of just talking. So, you see where I'm coming from? I don't know if I'm going to like it, if it's too just fast-paced, too visually there. Like, yes, it grabs people who have a short attention span, but I can have a longer attention span. That's one thing I didn't like when the first time watching this. This time I didn't care as much because I was just paying attention to like, oh, well, it's very visually like stunning. I'm not the perfect person for this style. I was not the biggest fan of the style, but for the most part, I would say it had its own unique style that a lot of people like, and I can't deny that it's awesome, its style for itself. I'm not a fan of it, but I see why a lot of people are. So anyways, guys, so yeah, the overall, I think the story has great moments, some great, like, I mean, when it's dealing with Miles and his dad and his uncle and stuff like that, it's really good. When it's dealing with stuff like the black and white Spider-Man, the like pig Spider-Man, and the anime Spider-Man, I didn't really like that. I thought they were just forced in at the last minute, didn't get enough time to really like invest in the characters, and then they assumed by the end of the final battle was just like, oh yeah, you're gonna like these characters now. Like, no, you're not. You never got a chance to know these characters. Why would you like these characters now? So that's a big problem I think with this movie, is that the story-wise, it had good elements in it. The visual-wise, it had great elements, but it also, yes, I get it. This movie was not made for someone like me. This movie was made for someone who likes that type of, overly hyped, overly flashy type movies. The people who watch the Fast and Furious movies, the people who watch the Transformer movies, people like that. It wasn't made for people who like to watch a slow-paced fantasy movie, people who like to watch slower movies. It wasn't made for people like me, who actually enjoy those slow-paced movies. So I do get that. But for the most part, even people who are fans, I feel like should acknowledge that you really didn't get time to know some of these characters, and they kind of just assume that you would like the characters anyways. And so I'm like, that's a big mistake that really draws me out of the movie, and really it's like, okay, not even putting aside my own just personal opinions, just from a general standpoint, from a writing standpoint, this movie isn't good for when it comes to these characters. And I get it, they didn't have time to really set up these characters, and it wasn't their story. They were just there for being more characters, but the fact of the matter is, then in that case, they shouldn't have made a big emphasis on how sad it was when they left if you never got to know these characters and really get to like these characters. Overall, guys, tell me your thoughts below. Do you guys like Into the Spider-Verse? I personally have mixed feelings about it. The first time I was very strongly, when I first watched it back when it came out, I was very strong against it, and I really had arguments with people who really liked it, saying that it was a terrible movie and it was one of the worst Spider-Man movies ever. Watching again, my mind has a little bit changed. I don't think it's the worst Spider-Man movie, but the fact of the matter is, it's still nowhere close to being the greatest Spider-Man movie. It was an average Spider-Man movie, and I don't know. Tell me your thoughts below about that. If you guys haven't yet, please subscribe. We are now in September. I'm sorry that I barely got to any videos in the end of July and August at all. But my plan for this month is to do a bunch of movies on superheroes. So I'm going to be addressing these Spider-Man, multiverse Spider-Man movies of Into the Spider-Verse and Across the Spider-Verse. And then we should have 1 or 2 more weeks. And I'll figure out what I'm doing for those 2 weeks on other, probably go down this Spider-Man type route. Maybe do the Amazing Spider-Mans or something like that. Just make I'm starting to make a schedule, and I really want to make September. I really want to make September to be superhero month, Super September, I'm gonna call it. And then my plan is to have August be animated August, or basically animated movies. And I'll get more into that later on, but for right now, thank you guys for watching. If you guys haven't yet, please subscribe. This has been the Movie Night Review. Peter Ware, signing off.